At 0738 local time over the Persian Gulf, two U.S. F-18 Super Hornets were flying a combat air patrol between the American destroyer and Bandar Abbas Harbor when the Hawkeye called contacts, low, slow, and headed right their way. Shahed drones were lifting off the flight deck of a ship that was cosplaying as an aircraft carrier, the Iris Shahed Begari. The pilots banked hard to intercept. They were about to shoot down every single one, but unknown to the pilots, that was exactly what Iran was counting on. The first F-18's FLIR, or forward-looking infrared, the thermal camera mounted on the nose you see here, picked up the Shahed at 11 miles, thermal smudge against warm water, radar cross-section of a shopping cart. He selected a sidewinder and waited for the tone. The piston was the size of a lawnmower engine, putting out barely enough heat to distinguish it from the sun-warmed water behind it. Tone wavered, firmed, broke lock. He repositioned 30 degrees, trying to frame the exhaust against open sky instead of warm sea. Tone came back stronger. 2 seconds of solid track. The drone janked left on its pre-programmed route and the angle collapsed. Gone. 2 attempts, no shot. The Shahed was 10 minutes from reaching the line of destroyers protecting the carrier called the destroyer screen, the fleet's first and last wall of defense, and the missile seeker couldn't tell the drone apart from the warm water below it, which left the gun. And using the gun meant diving to 1,000 feet to chase a target, skimming the waves, nose pointed straight at Bandar Abbas and every anti-aircraft gun on the harbor wall. He rolled the jet over and pulled the nose down. 8,000 feet, 6,000, 4. The waterfront filled the canopy. Cranes and the dark shapes of anti-aircraft positions growing larger by the second. In the harbor, a Zu-23 gunner tracked the Americans' descent through his optical sight. A fighter driving to shoot, called a strafing run, then it had to fly straight at them. And a jet flying straight is a jet that's easy to hit. He cranked the elevation wheel, led the sight against a contact's nose, and opened fire. His partner on the second mount followed a half-second later. Tracers streaked up in arcs that looked lazy from altitude and stopped being lazy at 3,000 feet. The F-18 held the dive. Gun harmonization, the point where all the bullets converge on a single spot, was set at 1,000 feet. He was still above that, so the rounds would land low if he didn't aim higher. He corrected high and committed at 1 mile. Half a second on the trigger. 20mm rounds punched through the Shahed's airframe and tore the wing off. He hauled back on the stick and climbed through the tracers, 2 streams converging on the corridor he was pulling through. Each burst a coin toss. A 23mm round cracked against the left intake housing. Engine instruments read normal on the climb out. Whatever it hit hadn't found anything that mattered yet, this time. His wingman splashed 2 more on sidewinders. Better geometry, cooler background, 4 intercepts between the 2 jets, and every time they climbed back to altitude, the Hawkeye called new tracks departing from the same bearing. The Begari was cycling drones off the rail at 1-minute intervals, each one a 50-foot kamikaze aimed at the fleet with enough explosive to ruin a destroyer's radar array. Military equivalent of a dollar store trying to bankrupt Costco, one cheap product at a time. The flight lead checked his rails, 2 sidewinders left. His wingman had 3. 5 shots for a ship launching faster than they could shoot. Each sidewinder cost $400,000. Each Shahed cost $20,000. The Begari was winning the economics 20-1, and the Americans were paying premium prices to swat discount drones, and the Zu-23 crews were getting closer with each pass. Then they saw it. On board the ship were 8 anti-ship cruise missiles. If they didn't take out their target soon, those American destroyers would have a lot more to worry about than swatting a few drones. Both jets carried 1 LRSM, long-range anti-ship missile, or LRSM, under the wing, you see here. They were also the only aircraft between the fleet and the drones still airborne. 2 missions pulling opposite directions from the same 2 pilots. The flight split. Lee pushed north towards the Bear. Wingman stayed south alone with 2 sidewinders and a gun that put him inside the anti-aircraft envelope every time the seeker couldn't hold the lock. Inside the Bear's bridge, the captain tracked the split on his tactical display and understood the Americans' problem before the Americans did. One fighter heading north meant one LRASM. His MORAB surface-to-air missiles existed for exactly this point, defense against a single inbound weapon. The real question was the southern fighter. As long as the American Combat Air Patrol stayed occupied chasing drones, his Charlie 802 anti-ship cruise missiles had a clear path to the fleet, and it was fast enough to put a destroyer on the bottom of the Gulf. But firing them meant switching on the targeting radar, and every passive sensor in the coalition would pinpoint his position inside 3 seconds. It's like kicking a hornet's nest and then standing still to see what happens. Right now, the Bagheri ran dark, hiding in the electronic clutter of a harbor full of burning ships. Firing the Charlie 802 traded that invisibility for 8 missiles in the air, and the math only worked if the Americans ran dry first. A few more Shahed cycles, a few more Sidewinders off the rails. He watched another drone cycle off the rail and mentally calculated what they should have left. Almost. The lead descended through 30,000 feet. The LRASM needed him below 20,000 feet for the delivery queue to solve cleaner through the smoke rising from Bandar Abbas, and every foot below 18,000 feet put him inside the MORAB envelope. 8 short-range surface-to-air missiles on the Bagheri's deck, each needing 8 seconds of continuous track to fire. The kind of math that only works if nobody is shooting at you, which is exactly the kind of math military aviation never gets. 25,000 feet. The MORAB search radar swept his altitude and moved on. Somewhere below, the wingman was rolling into the ZU-23 envelope again. 5 shots between the fleet and a ship that launched drones the way a pitching machine throws baseballs. Every 1,000 feet the lead descended brought the delivery queue closer to green and the MORAB closer to a firing solution. The LRASM needed him at 16,000 feet. The MORAB could reach out to touch him at 17,000 feet. Almost 1,000 feet of airspace where both things were true at the same time. 23,000 feet. The lead felt the MORAB search radar wash over the airframe again, a brief electronic tickle on the radar warning receiver. A system sniffing but not biting. At this altitude, the return was still too faint to hold. Another 2,000 feet and that would change. The delivery queue on the heads-up display counted down like a fuel gauge running backwards. The closer he got to release altitude, the closer he got to the SAM envelope, and neither number was negotiable. On the Bagheri, the MORAB operator caught a return at 24 kilometers. Faint, the burning Sahan 2 miles south painted false contacts across half his display. Smoke columns meeting humid air, generating returns that looked real until they moved wrong. He filtered manually, held the contact for 2 seconds before it faded, 6 seconds short. He swept the sector and noticed the contact was lower than his last detection. Descending, coming to it. 6,000 feet inside the engagement ceiling. Then the Hawkeye ripped the geometry apart. Top hat, 1 bogey, fast mover bearing 015, Mach 1.2 southbound. No friendly IFF, identification friend or foe, the encrypted transponder that separates allied aircraft from hostile aircraft in a sky full of both. The E-2D interrogated, mode 4, nothing. Mode 5, nothing. Fighter size and supersonic, aimed at 2 Super Hornets that were nearly Winchester and out of position. A Black Aces Hornet with a damaged transponder box was running south for a tanker, completely unaware it had just become the most dangerous friendly aircraft in the Gulf. It didn't maneuver, no jamming, no brake turn. An Iranian MiG pilot who knew he was locked would be pulling G's and dumping chaff. A friendly with a broken transponder wouldn't know that he needed to. One trigger pull was either the right call or front page news, and the information to decide which was the one thing this guy couldn't give them. Below, the MORAB operator swept the sector and found the descending contact stronger now, closer. The delivery window was 90 seconds from opening. 2 unchecked Shaheds drifted south toward the fleet at 185 kilometers per hour, and the wingman was burning toward them on a fuel gauge that stopped being a number and started being a prayer. Every second the lead spent chasing this contact was a second the wingman spent alone against drones he was running out of weapons to shoot with and fuel to chase. He held the course towards the bogey. The delivery queue went dark. The Bigari kept launching. The Hawkeye cross-referenced the air tanking order, the master schedule of every coalition aircraft and theater. Nothing friendly on that bearing, but the ATO was a plan, and plans survive about 15 minutes once the shooting starts. A gap. An FA-18 from VFA-41 Black Aces diverted 15 minutes ago when it took damage from a near miss by an Iranian missile and was now heading south for a tanker. The bearing fit, the altitude fit. Fit is not confirmed. He slewed the forward-looking infrared on the contact. At 15 miles, the image resolved. Twin tails, canted stabilizers, FA-18. A Black Aces Hornet with a damaged transponder box was running south for a tanker, completely unaware it had just become the most dangerous friendly aircraft in the Gulf. It didn't maneuver, no jamming, no brake turn. An Iranian MiG pilot who knew he was locked would be pulling G's and dumping chaff. A friendly with a broken transponder wouldn't know that he needed to. One trigger pull was either the right call or front page news, and the information to decide which was the one thing this guy couldn't give them. Below, the MORAB operator swept the sector and found the descending contact stronger now. Closer. The delivery window was 90 seconds from opening. Two unchecked Shaheeds drifted south toward the